thankful for you to be here, listening a little bit about Ayurveda. So, my name is Michele. I've been working with Ayurveda for the last 15 years. Mainly I did my study here in Portugal and also a little bit in India. And here in the House of Zen, I usually do the Ayurvedic massage. And actually, I would like to start from there, because actually, there's one really important thing concerning Ayurveda in the way it's known outside. Usually, people hear about Ayurvedic massage and they think that it has to do, well, probably when they hear about Ayurveda, Ayurvedic medicine, they relate to the massage, and actually it's two things that are actually really apart. In Ayurveda healing, they do use a massage, but it's called Abhyanga, and it's the one they use in hospitals in India to treat people, okay? And Ayurvedic massage, it was a style created by a teacher, and actually the original name in India is Ayurveda massage. And when they brought it to the outside world, it was easy, I think, for them to simply say it was called Ayurvedic massage. Well, today we are here to speak a little bit about summer lifestyle in Ayurveda. But first I would like to ask, how much do you know about Ayurveda, so I can understand which approach can I do about it. Does anyone know a little bit about Ayurveda? No? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, but I will have to go
Oh,
further. Okay?
Yeah.
Please do.
May I ask if anybody minds if I take a few pictures from the workshop? No. Thank you.
So, first thing I usually like to say about Ayurveda is that it's a 5,000-year medicine. It had before that oral tradition. We sometimes don't think a lot about it, but before our time, with computers and even books, they would have to memorize everything they knew, so they could collect the information. And even the first books in Ayurveda, the 4 Vedas, they were written almost like a song, a poem, so it would be really easy to memorize. And actually in our traditional wisdom, even in our countries, bless you, usually information is written, the things that we say, well, 1 apple every day keeps the doctor far away. Ayurveda was written, all the books were written like that, all in poems, so people would more easily memorize. And I usually say it's a 5,000 years information, and a medicine that usually it's really ancestral, but it has a really visionary approach, because the ultimate goal of Ayurveda is to help us to attain illumination. Of course, if we think about it, and of course being really light and being really happy about it. To do that, of course, the first thing we do need is to have a body that has no symptoms, no signs, that is completely solved, that is completely balanced, so it won't interfere with the process of us opening our energy to our divine field and our divine energy and our divine connection. That's why usually when we study Ayurveda usually comes even before yoga, because yoga is already the connection. But before we have the connection, we have to create the structure, and Ayurveda is the structure. The first really important thing to understand is who we are. Who we are in concerning our elements. You know, probably the ones that know a little bit about Ayurveda already heard about the three dorsas, you know, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. But to understand them, first we need to understand the five elements. When I think about the five elements, first we have what they call heater. You know, sometimes they translate it like space, and this is the first element. In quantum physics, heater is translated or is shown to be like, probably you've seen that when they are measuring particles, they usually say they have waves. So heater, it has a really high speed wave, and it's so fast that our eyes and our natural perception doesn't really grasp it. You know, it's too fast for our 3D perception. Still, we can sense this ether and space energy in our dreams. For instance, because the dreams, they do have a matter, they do have an element, but the element present in dreams is ether. The person that designed this house, first, the person had an idea. Every time we create a project in our mind, every time we have an idea, we are working with a substance that it's called heater. But we really can't grasp it. It's, you know, it has to do with creation. It has to do with connecting with divine energy, with inspiration, actually. And then after ether, all the elements that come after ether, they contain the previous element. So the next element is hair. You know, it's all around us. We can already sense it. The vibration of air, it's still very fast, but more in a way slow than heater. So we can already sense air around us, you know. And two things that these two elements have in common is that they are both light, dry and cold. And actually, after when we think about the constitutions, the one that is going to be made mainly with these two elements is the Vata type energy. And then we will observe that the Vata type energy will have this light, cold and dry constitution. We'll speak about it after, okay? After ether and air, then we have fire, the fire element. It's the only one that is hot. And we can already, the vibration is slower, but still fast enough so we can't really grasp it again. We can see it, and we can, when we look at the flame, we can understand that the flame has something of etherical in itself, and it's too hot for us to touch it, and it already has a matter that we can see, but it's too fast still for us to touch it. After the fire element, because this is like the vibration is slowing down, then it comes water. And in water element, the wave is even slower, and the particles, you know, with particles what happen in matter, it's like in ether they are really far away from each other, but then in air they become closer, with fire they are closer, in water they are closer, and we can penetrate water as a substance, as a matter. And then after water that is already cold but is wet and heavy, Then we have the heart, bless you, the heart element. Bless you. And in the heart element, what happens naturally is that particles are so close together that we have the impression that we can't really go through it. But actually, that was what the ancient sages of India, and not only India, from China and even in Africa and even here in Europe, you know, the alchemists, they understood how this would work. And you probably heard things like people that go through walls and can levitate and things like that. And actually what they do is that they simply understand very well how these laws of interconnection of particles function. So it's not something, we would call it magic when we don't understand how it works. But when we start to understand how the field works, how the gravity works, we can understand that they simply created a domain about their thought. Because have you ever heard this sentence that says, energy follows thought? Anyone ever heard this? So, of course, energy does follow thought. We are doing it all the time. Every time we think about something, we project our attention to outside. And in a way, I usually say we leave our body behind, which it's not really good at all, because we are here mainly to be inside, to do our elimination process. We have in the concept of fire, the third chakra, it's the solar plexus. Well, it's the solar plexus because it's the warmer part of the body. It's related to Pitta, actually, and it's also related with digestion. So, Vata will be constituted with heater and air. Pitta,
heater, I don't know, is it the first element?
space. Yes, it's the
space.
Space, heater, space. And Pitta will be constituted with fire and water. It's the only one that it's hot and warm. And it has a metabolic function. And Kapha, that usually it's the more heavy constitution, is it's made with water and earth. Of course, we do have to have all the 5 elements and all the 3 dosas working in our body. Because, for instance, Vata, the Vata, root in the body, it's the intestine, and probably, and all the belly actually, first and second chakra, it's related with Vata. And one of the things that you can relate to is when you see a Vata type. Vata types is this really usually light person, that usually walks very fast, speaks very fast, has many ideas because it's related and connected to the higher self and to higher energy, but it's really difficult for them to be grounded, to be connected to earth. If you would think about the body, of course the body is constituted with all the 3 humors, the 3 bioenergies, but I usually say it's like the 3 primary colors. We have blue, magenta and yellow, but all of us are constituted with different amounts of each color and creates one really particular and unique composition. So even when I'm creating a program, and a person can be Pitta Vata, Vata Pitta or whatever, even if it's the same, it's still always slightly different because each person is really. Ayurveda is a very holistic approach to people. Okay, so in Vata type, they are really usually very light. The skin tends to be dry, and also the hair also tends to be dry. You know, usually they have curly hair, and the eyes are smaller also, and usually they forget to eat, and they usually don't have a really good memory. Because what retains memory in our body, it's the water molecules. And because Vata doesn't have a lot, it doesn't have so much water in the body, it has more, it's lighter, it's not so easy for them to retain information. And they can really be creative, but they really sometimes can't, manifest their ideas so easily because they get, in a way, disturbed with all the movement they have inside their head. They are always thinking about something else. Then you have Pitta. Pitta is, usually middle constitution. The main thing we can say about the constitution is the muscles will be more visible in a way. They can usually get really toned muscles more easily than Vata. Vata types sometimes they want to get, a little bit larger, and it's very difficult for them. I have sometimes we think people only go to consultation to get lighter and thinner, but no, I do have the opposite. People that are so light and thinner and they would like to get some fat, and it's difficult for them because the constitution is naturally lighter. Okay, so Pitta, they are middle constitution, and usually because it's the only constitution that it has really a strong fire inside. The center of Pitta would be the part of the stomach, but also the gallbladder, the liver, the beginning of the intestine, just after the stomach, because it's the part we have more enzymes being expelled through the system, so it can digest the food. So it's acidic, the acid, the things that corrupt the structure, so it can open up the molecules and release the nutrients. It's our stuff, in a way. But the thing is that the Pitta, emotionally, the Vata tends to be anxious because he's unstable. The ideas are flowing all the time like a windy thing that goes inside their head. Pitta types, because they have warm inside, they get angry. And one of the worst things you can do to a Pitta is make him miss his meals. Because Pitta get irritated when they don't eat. They usually have such a good fire inside that they kind of need to maintain the fire burning, and usually they burn out really easy the nutrients. So it's very easy for a Pitta to have actually lack of assimilation of nutrients because they burn out the molecules very easily, okay? And usually concerning their mind, they are usually very focused and they really know what they want. That kind of person that it has a little bit of a military perspective about things. They like to have order in things. They are amazing leaders, actually. Usually Vata types give ideas, Pitta know how to make them, how to manifest them. And they are really good to, gather people around and lead people. Because Pitta is made with fire and water, and because it has water, it usually has a really good memory. And because it has fire, the fire makes it very easy to access the memories. Okay, so it's water and fire. So it's a really great combination for the person to really achieve and remembers a lot of things and really easily. That's why they usually have a really good answer, they usually can reply everything very immediately and really know what they are talking about. Then we have Kappa. Kappa, the first thing it's important to say they are the strong bone people, heavy bone people. And why? Because it's water and earth. The elements they have more strongly in the body, it's the heavier ones. So they are this kind of calm and really nourishing people that are very sympathetic with everyone, very compassionate, usually have huge eyes and really strong hair. Because what happens to Kappa is because he does everything very slowly, in opposition to maybe to even, especially to Vata, but also to Pitta, he can, he is highly nutrient. He can absorb very well the nutrients of food. So that's why the bones in Kappa usually are more strong. Vata women tend to have osteoporosis more earlier in life because the Vata constitution is the one that is as more difficult to retain the nutrients. The Kappa is the opposite. It's really, they are heavy. Even if you see a lighter Kappa, not so much fat. Usually Kappa is naturally, it has natural fat around the body. And they really, and actually they have the articulations very well lubrified. That's why sometimes even in Facebook or internet we see, really kind of shabby people doing yoga, and it's really easy for them because actually their articulations are well lubrified. In opposition to Vata, that usually are very, skinny and light, but the articulations are dry, so it's kind of difficult for them to bend. Okay? So, Kappa, usually the emotion that is more present when it's disturbed is that he feels sadness. It's a water energy, He tends to be depressed, while Pitta tends to be explosive and angry, and Vata really can have a panic attack, all the different emotions concern different type of people. Of course, we have moments in life. This is the basic Prakriti, but we all have the three, but we have a different percentage. And in Ayurveda we call it Prakriti. Prakriti, it means the matrix of people. And that's why first we need to understand how we are made of, so we can really understand everything else we can do to maintain this balance. Of course, we are born with one Prakriti, with one matrix, but our lifestyle creates unbalancing choice. We make unbalancing choices in our lifestyle that creates an imbalance in our constitution. So if a person was born Pitta, usually the most common is for us to have two of them predominant. That's why I was saying, oh, this is a Vata Pitta, a Vata Kappa, or a Pitta Vata, Pitta Kappa, and so on. And there's one of them that it's called a tridoshic, that has the three humors in the same amount. Okay? All of them, it's what they are. No, none is better than the other one. You know, it's simply what you are. The thing is that our lifestyle makes us in a way change from the constitution we were born, and this means that it's like a radio. We can, or a song, we get out of tune, and because we get out of tune, it means that after a while, everything else starts to be disturbing in our life. Because in the beginning I was talking about particles and waves, because the main important thing is that the Ayurveda had in the books in the beginning is that we are mainly vibration, and our molecules vibrate. And because it's vibration, we are highly sensitive to every kind of change. And of course, even during one single day, everything can change in the way we are. I usually say, change is the only constant, like they usually say. And the person you were yesterday is not the same that you are today, because there were cells that died, that there were cells that were born, and that's you. That's part of you. If they are born, every morning you have a new you. So in Ayurveda, they are really, in a way, focused on creating a new you that it's even better, even better molecules, renewing our DNA so that you really can maintain the balance. A person can be Pitta Vata, and because of the lifestyle, suddenly after a while become a Pitta Kapha, or too much Vata or too much Pitta. Okay? For instance, we live in a Vata society. Everyone is running from one side to another. People are doing everything very fast. We are working with computers and phones, and everything. It's making us think too much. We never had this much access to information, and the one that processes information is Vata. And it's like having too much attention on the outside, so the person really almost can't feel the body. So this is, we have the 5 elements, we have the 3 doshas, or 3 bioenergies. Then we have another concept really important in Ayurveda, that it's called the 3 gunas. The 3 gunas, it's the 3 qualities of matter. And probably if you do yoga, you probably heard about them. It's what they call sattva, rajas, and tamas. It's the things they use to classify matter in the way they vibrate. It's also vibrate. So sattva, it's the lighter vibration. It's everything that is really healthy. It's really good for the body. That really makes you connect to your inner nature and feel in peace inside of yourself. Where can we find sattva outside? In our food, for instance. Everything we eat that is biological, fruit and vegetables, it's usually what we call sattvic food. Okay? Water, of course, but good spring water, not canned water or, piped water. That's usually not really good. Have you ever heard about the Masaru Emoto book, The Language of Water? Search for it, it's really amazing. He was a scientist that made a study on water, and the main thing that he was studying, it was how the crystal of water would change with vibration. And you probably heard about it. So because we are 80% water in our body, more or less, that's the thing, more or less depending on the constitution, because Vata has less water and Kapha has more water, okay? Still, it's a lot. So it's really important the type of water we drink. And in the Masaru Emoto perspective, he would show us that we should create intention and even write good messages to the water we drink, because that's the water that is creating a special vibration that is going inside the body. So this has to do with qualities. It's a quality that we can add to everything that we eat. For instance, the people that learn how to do Reiki healing, they usually would design a few symbols that really transform the quality of the water molecules of the food they are eating, besides of the water they are drinking. So, of course, we can change matter, but we need to be aware that we can do it. And most people don't. So this is one important thing that is also there in Ayurveda as a substance to be acquired. So sattva is also present in homeopathy, in honey, in milk, but raw milk. Milk is a very complicated subject nowadays. In India, milk is a very sacred food, but usually they would only have raw milk, straight from the cow, and they don't have, probably now they have it because they are highly influenced by the Occidental way of living, but still before, they would only collect milk from the cow that was actually feeding their cubs. So it wasn't, they weren't making an obligation of the cows to produce milk. Actually, you probably heard that cows are sacred in India, but the thing is, I usually say all animals are sacred in India. All life is sacred in India. They even have temples where they feed the mouse. So everyone has the right to have food and eat and be nurtured, because they feel everything is nature and should be preserved as it. Okay. Of course, the milk we have access here. It was boiled, sometimes really many times, so the pH of the milk changed and became probably really acidic, because raw milk is alkaline, but boiled milk is acidic, and it's not really good for the body. Okay. And would be a kind of the next guna, that is rajas. Rajas is sattva, just to finish, sattva is linked to pitta, because sattva is linked to light, to have the divine light inside of you, the divine inspiration. And pitta, because it's the only one the only constitution that has fire inside, it's the one that can more easily connect to sattva and to higher energy. We all have pitta, of course, but we have in different proportions. Okay? Rajas is linked to vata. So rajas as a quality is the quality of movement. For instance, yesterday was a really windy day. Probably a few of you felt the wind. And wind is linked to vata. When we have a really windy day, usually the vata mind, if a person already has a vata a bit unbalanced, in a windy day, the person will feel the mind is going crazy. Because I usually say our body is completely atmospherical, which means that everything that is going through in our climate, it's also going through our body. We are kind of walking heart, small heart, that is also influenced by all the climate around us. Okay, so, but what happens is that we are always trying to adjust and to reply to the weather, maintaining our balance. Actually, the definition of health in Ayurveda, it concerns this ability to maintain balance through all in all our dimensions, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual dimension. Maintain this balance in all the dimensions. This is health. And it's like if you go to, you're here, and if you came from a really cold place, and when you arrive, although you feel, wow, it's warm, it's amazing, but still the body needs to adjust. Okay? And you can even, although it's pleasant, your body may feel really uncomfortable and you get sick. Because, oh, this is too hot for me. My body is not used to it. When the body is really healthy, and of course this has to do with the immune system, we always have a positive reply to the weather. Even if you go to Antarctica, you go there and you feel, oh, I'm okay. My fire is kind of really burning high in the body. Because the body will do that, and that's what I'm talking all of this to get to summer. We'll get there. But the thing is that, of course, if it's really hot outside, the body will do its best to create coolness inside. So the digestive system will reduce the fire, so it can cool down the body, and that's why usually in summer, and I'm already going in front, going ahead, we will feel the need to eat lighter food, okay? But we'll get there. So, Rajas is movement. All the movement that we have in life, usually in Ayurveda they say that movement is the thing that creates disease. Why? Because when we are in a sattvic state of mind, the three gunas are really used to define how the mind works. So a sattvic mind is a focused and lighter mind that usually feels peace of mind. It can adjust and accept everything that happens in their life. The Rajasic mind, it's the one that really gets upset, and it's always, it's like you have a loop in your mind, the thought that you have is always kind of going through and repeating itself, and creates a lot of stress, actually, a kind of a mindful stress. And in our life, they say that every time we move, for instance, if we are driving a car, of course, the probability for us to have an accident is higher than if we stay in the garden meditating. Okay, so that's why they say that every time we move, and even if it's only in our mind, because we might also not be moving around, but having too much movement inside our mind, and this will create disease anyway. Because one thing that is really funny about our body, it's that actually we are always doing some interpretation of everything that happens around us. So even if we are not living anything that is disturbing, but in our mind we think we create the disease. We create the movement that creates the disease. And that's why we have mental diseases. And in a way, psychologists always say that we all have some kind of problem because we all have some kind of movement. Okay? And we all have ideas that in a way disturb the way we approach life. And Rajas has to do also with our behavior concerning life, you know, the way we react. And in a way, in the Rajas, we feel passion about life. In Sattva, we feel love. Rajas, we feel passion. You know, people that really want to do things, create things, have projects. They want to go from this place to another and do many things at the same time. This is a Rajasic kind of lifestyle. Okay. Then after that we have Tamas, and Tamas is inertia. You know, everything. There's the law of inertia. There's always a moment in which we need to stop. And our life does need that, but in a really small amount. Usually in Ayurveda they say that a balanced guna inside our body and inside our mind would be something like 70% of sattva, 20% of rajas, and only 10% of tamas. Tamas has to do with rest in the best way. In the worst way, has to do with depression and complete inertia. When the person loses the will, because in Rajas people want to do many things, but in Tamas the person lost the will to live. Okay, it's like they lose their focus. They don't know what they are doing here. This is Tamas, like really, I wait inside the mind, you know, like, oh, I can't get up. So, the thing is that, for instance, in the Rajas, we find it also in food, of course. And food that has Rajas is usually spice food, because it creates movement inside. It helps all the digestion. And, of course, meat, but you know, white meat, because red meat is tamasic, it's tamas, and alcohol, it's also rajasic, and you know, general things that we take, drugs that we take, you know, for when we are sick, it usually, well, a few of them actually are tamas, but most of them are rajasic, because they want to create movement inside the body so we can get supposedly better. Okay. There are a few vegetables that are usually also rajasic, like all the legumes, you know, lentils, grains, beans. They all because they create hair inside the intestine. They create movement. And they are usually acidic, okay? Well, of course, there's always a difference between the pH of the different grains, you know. Lentils and mung bean are acidic, but not so much as red bean, for instance, that is more acidic, okay? This is the deepness about Ayurveda, that there's a whole chapter about nutrition that is huge, and there's a lot to explain about it, but I just want you to grasp a little bit of the things that, so you can understand the summary in Ayurveda. Then all the tamasic food is actually really the real problem of our daily life of nowadays. Because I usually say that 90% of almost all food there we have in our supermarkets nowadays, it's tamasic. So every processed food, because we eat because we want to acquire prana, life force, energy. If we eat a fresh pineapple, and if we can imagine the pineapple is, well, a fresh one is 100% of energy, Well, the fresh will have 100% of energy, but a canned pineapple will have around 20%. The thing is that for the digestive system, it will take the same amount of energy to digest both, but in the end, if he eats the fresh pineapple, it will be refreshed with 100% of energy, but if it eats the canned pineapple, it will be only 20 and will starve. You know, because it spent too much energy, and now the energy that it acquired after digestion it was so low. So everything we have in a can, frozen food, everything that is processed and prepared, it has almost no prana. It will bring us only the sensation, kind of disturbing or illusionary sensation of being satisfied, but actually is not nurturing. Okay, so of course red meat, as I said before, it's also in that group. That's why usually, you know, when they say red meat, it's because red meat usually comes from cows, and one of the reasons why even in India Ayurveda, it's not a vegetarian regime, okay? People would think about it. The thing is that usually they almost don't eat meat. It's very rare. It's only, especially when the person is sick, when it needs a little bit, a higher amount of protein, of strength, then they can kill an animal to offer to the person. Most of the times they do what we call dairy vegetarian meal, okay? Lifestyle and food routine. But then they can have little pieces of meat sometimes if the person needs a little extra energy, okay? The thing is that the cow meat is more, it's the most acidic there is, you know. In the pH table, it's like, you know, the middle is the 7, cow would be around 3. So it's really acidic, and actually it's not because it's sacred, but it's because it's really bad for the system. They don't recommend at all the red meat. Okay, of course, if you're living in Antarctica, you do need that extra heat, because everything that is acidic, it really makes you feel more heat inside. Okay, that's why if you're in a really cold weather, it's not so unbalancing to have red meat or even other animals more frequently. It's more balanced. It doesn't create such a disturbance in the system if you're in a really cold weather. Okay, but if you are in you know, like in Portugal, this is what we call the Mediterranean food routine. And it's based mainly on vegetables and olive oil and salads and things like that. And it's balanced with the weather. But wouldn't be good if you go to Finland, because it's a lot colder there. They would need to eat more cream and, you know, heavier things, because they have always to balance with the weather. One of the things that I always felt that was really great about Ayurveda was this deep understanding of what the person really needs concerning the place where the person is in the moment. You know, it all has to do with adjustment. So, tamas nowadays is really highly present in the lifestyle of people. So, of course, people are not so scientific. They are highly, I think the thing the thing is almost upside down. You know, they have 10% of sattva, almost 70% of rajas, and well, or less, but a lot of tamas also. Okay, because you know that kind of mood in which you sit in the couch and you're doing zapping and you don't want to think or do nothing. This is tamas in the mind. Okay, and if we are eating too much of tamasic food, this is where we get anyway, because the tamas will bring you weight, not only in the body but also in the mind, and especially first in the mind, and of course then the body will follow actually. Okay, so these three aspects are very important, and when we start to understand how we can create a lifestyle, of course all of these three, they, vata, pitta and kapha, they have different needs. Kapha, as I said, is heavier, cold and wet. So, of course, it needs to be warmed out. It needs lighter food. And so, usually when we are thinking about kapha, because it has already more water, because we are always saying, well, drink a lot of water, and it's really important. Our body really needs to renew the water inside, but still the kapha type, it's the one that needs the less, because it has already so much water. So if it drinks too much water, it will get heavier. Okay. It's the funny thing. Sometimes a balanced kapha diet, it may imply reduce the water. But usually the kapha would say, oh, I don't have so much thirst, because if they are balanced, they won't drink so much water because they won't feel the need to do it. Okay, the water inside will tell them that it's enough. When we are thinking about pitta, of course, pitta types will be needing a really fresh and also a bit kind of moisturized food. Because although pitta has water in the constitution, it tends naturally to be dry. You know, natural pitta will be kind of fire and hot and dry energy. So it needs the opposite, the fresh, cooling and moisturized environment to really cool down the pitta. Okay? And even when we are thinking about food, that will be our goal, the way we will make our best to balance the pitta. And this is in everything in the routine. And vata, of course, is lighter, drier, and also cold. So it will need to be warmed up, and we will need, kind of moisturized food. Things that are moisty and also wet in a way. Okay, so you can feel that its dryness is really it's balanced in the body. When we are thinking about then we have a few other things about the body that are really important when we eat. The main goal will be to balance ourselves with the weather around us. Of course, today I will be speaking in particular about summer, but actually I will speak anyway about the 4 seasons. Because what they observed was that spring, before going to summer, well, in the northern countries, usually they have snow. So when we come to spring, the snow starts to melt, and the moment the snow melts, inside our body, all the things that were kind of stuck, that were in a way condensed during the winter time, also start to melt. That's why many people in spring, spring it's the time of allergies for many people. And the allergies, they happen mainly because all the kind of toxins that were retained during the winter time, they start to melt, and people sometimes even feel, this nasal flowing that is really uncomfortable, but of course they need to release the toxins. In the beginning, because we are still in spring, but when I talked to Sylvie, she said, well, we are almost getting to summer and it's hot, so it makes more sense to speak about summer instead of spring, because spring usually is linked to wet days, and because they are wet days, because it's usually raining, all this snow and all this water is flowing, it's a kappa season. So again, if it's a kappa season, well, the weather here in Portugal, it's not so cold, but still we have sometimes some wind that it's cold, but it's mainly raining. When we are living, and even if it's a summer, if we are in a summertime, but there's a rainy day, it will be a kappa day, and in that day, we should avoid food that is heavy. For instance, cooked oat for breakfast. Oat when it's cooked, it's kind of moisty and and sluggish so this is kappa, because kappa actually in the body is all of our mucus. Everything, it has to do with humidity in the body. So if all the humidity is circulated in the body, and if we are going to eat more things that are also humid and moistures, it will increase the unbalance of kappa. So usually in spring, we need spicy things, lighter food, and of course hotter also, to balance the kappa. So,
Sorry, hot, spicy, and
lighter. Like these kind of, not really cookies, these made with rice and also with corn, these round things. And this is very good for kappa. Even for kappa people in general, but in the kappa season, when it's a wet day. Otherwise, it's not a rule very good, because it will increase vata inside. Everything that has, like popcorn. Popcorn is a very vata food. In Ayurveda, they have this concept of antidotes. If you know curry is an antidote for food. People always think that curry is only to make the food becomes more tasty, and it is, but the main goal of curry is to balance our inner fire, our jataragni, digestive fire. Okay? So each constitution, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, they have different types of fire inside. Vata type will have what we call an unstable fire. Why? Because Vatas, they tend to forget to eat. A Pitta would think, what a crazy person. But Vatas, if they are having a really creative moment, working all day, they can skip all the meals and get to the end of the day like they would eat everything they find. But this is really unbalancing. Because if you imagine, and Vata types, they usually don't like the word routine. They don't like to eat on the schedule. The problem is that the body has needs, and usually the Vata, because he's having a really creative moment or whatever, is simply flowing, the Rajas is moving in the mind, the person is not feeling the body. And is not feeling the need the body has to refuel the energy. So, the Vata as an unstable fire that sometimes works and sometimes not. I usually say when you have a stove and you have all the different types of one larger, one smaller, I usually say Pitta is the large one and we open it high. Vata, it's the middle one, but it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. It has more to do with the time it eats. I will get to there. And Kapha type will be the smaller one working in the lower fire. Okay? So, Pitta, of course, it has a very stable fire, but sometimes too high. And that's why I told before, it sometimes burns the food that heats. And of course this has an impact in the digestive system, in particular in our stools. Vata types, because they are unstable and they are dry, they will tend to have dry and darker stools. Pitta, it's the opposite. It's too acidic, so usually they are lighter and very loose stools. Kapha type, they usually are slow in the intestine movement. So they also can get constipated easily, but it's not because it's dry, it's because it has too much mucus inside the intestine. Okay? So Pitta type usually have a really good fire and a good immune system, because there's no bacteria that can stand the Pitta usually. They are really, high energy, but they have to eat usually a lot. But that's one thing, they feel the need to eat more, but they need to, balance that need, because sometimes they eat too much. Kapha types, as I said, it's a really low fire. So I usually say that when we cook low, when we are cooking something and in a low fire, the nutrients are kept inside the food. So that's why the Kapha constitution it has good bones, because it retains the nutrients more easily. Kapha types, they don't need to eat so much because they can digest and assimilate almost everything they eat, because they digest it very slowly. Of course, that's why usually when we are creating a routine for Kapha meals, for Kapha they can skip breakfast, for instance, because this has to do with the time of the day, and when the sun rises, we are in a Kapha moment, and everything we eat at breakfast, it's heavier on the stomach. Okay. One really important thing is that our stomach and our digestion is completely tuned with the sun, because this is the solar plexus. It's linked to the sun. So when the sun rises, we start to produce enzymes. But it's still a slow percentage of fire. Okay? That's why usually the breakfast should not be a really heavy meal. Of course, this is different from Portugal again to Africa or to Northern Europe. Okay? Because if it's colder, we will wake up with more fire. You know, even here in Portugal in winter time people eat more, even in breakfast, because we need more calories to balance the coldness outside. So, but of course in the morning usually it's colder, it's kappa. When we wake up and you go outside we have this chilly sensation. So this is the kappa energy manifesting. Okay? So the digestion is still not really ready to, it's slow still. When we get to midday, I usually say when the sun is on its midday, it's also midday inside. It's the higher moment of fire in the body. It's when we have the stronger heat inside. So it's the best moment to digest proteins. Proteins are the more complicated and long molecules and need more fire to be digested. So I usually recommend people when they eat meat, they should eat the meat only at lunchtime, okay? Because after, what happens is, of course, the sun sets, and after the sunset, there's no fire at all. You know, our ancestors, even in Europe, they would live by the sun. You know, they would go to bed earlier. They would eat their dinner usually before the sunset, because they knew this was important. It was not only because they would have, you know, electricity. It was because it was balancing for the body, okay? When the sun sets, I usually say there's a really important energy there. Well, the sun rises is kappa. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, from 10 to 2 p.m., we are in the pitta moment. And that's why midday, it's the higher pitta, higher digestive, macro-digestive pitta. Then from around 2 o'clock in the afternoon until the sunset, it's the vata moment. Actually, it's the most creative moment of the day. Then the sun sets, and until around 10 o'clock in the evening, we are again in the kappa moment. But this is a kappa that I usually say it tells our body it's the moment to go to bed. So we feel like kind of, oh, I'm so tired, I just want to, you know, go to the couch or something. In former days, people would go to sleep, and actually it's the best moment to go to sleep because the body is ready to fall asleep. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, Pitta comes again until 2 o'clock in the morning, but this Pitta is a different kind of Pitta. It's not a digestive Pitta of the stomach, it's what we call it's a distribution Pitta. It's allowing the cells to eat. Many people, because they feel, and if you don't go to bed before 10 o'clock, sometimes you feel like, oh, you know, like you were kind of sleepy, and after this hour is like you are awakening again. And that's why we should be sleeping before 10 o'clock, because it's easier to fall asleep and we have a deeper sleep. People that have insomnia, they should go to bed around 9 before the Pitta rises, because when the Pitta rises, it's really more difficult. We feel more energetic, and actually the body needs us to be sleeping, because the cells are eating in that moment, but they will only eat according to our rest. If we have, I usually say, if we are sleeping, we will absorb and assimilate 100% of the energy that was digested during the day. But if we are awakened, we will be consuming the energy that our cells should be absorbing, maintaining our awareness. And if we do it every day, of course the body is again starving because the cells are not eating properly, they are not assimilating, and this creates cravings, okay? Because it's like a lack of special nutrients, the cells are not eating for many days, and of course then they want, if the body feels, oh, I have to eat chocolate, or I have to eat nuts, or I have to eat whatever. Because it's like I have to refill this lack in some way. Okay? Then from 2 o'clock to the sunrise, we have the vata again. And usually in the Ayurveda routine would be the best moment to wake up, with the vata, before the sun rises. When we wake up after the sunrise, we feel heavier. It's more difficult to awake. When we awake before the sunrise, we are lighter, we are in a vata energy, and it's like this jumping out of bed that is present, it's lighter. And because vata rules the intestine, it would be the really good moment to evacuate, to really clean up the intestine. And people that have constipation, sometimes if they simply start to awake before the sunrise, that whole system changes. Of course, when we are thinking about all of these things, one of the important things is that we do need to get tuned with our body to really feel what's the proper moment to eat and to rest and to drink. I usually say most people mistake being hungry from being thirsty. We should have in Ayurveda, we should have only 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they should have a good time apart between. We are born with a kind of a bonus account of digestive enzymes, but like a bank account, if you go and spend money 5 times a day, it's different from spending 3 times a day, every day. Of course, as we are getting older, our digestive fire starts to lose power, and that's what makes us really difficult to digest. Older people do feel that they don't digest so well as they did when they were younger, because they were losing the power that they had in the beginning. Children, if they are healthy, they can eat almost anything. And the thing is that a baby can eat all day, and it's okay because the digestive system is usually very high and can digest. Milk is really difficult to digest because it's a cup of food, it's heavy. But children, they digest it very well because the fire is really strong. And until around the age of, until we finish growing around 21, but still until the end of the Pitta age, that it's around 50, the age of 50, we can still digest. If we are careful about our system, we can digest well. After that, we need to really balance. If we did it before, we really need to take care of that. Okay, create a really balanced lifestyle. And because then we enter the Vata age. And Vata, people usually start to get a little bit, they can get heavier, but this is because they didn't take care of the metabolic system. Most people, they get lighter and they lose sleep very easily they sleep lesser hours because they are getting lighter and lighter and lighter because they are preparing to, well, reconnect to the universe. Okay? So it's the way the universe prepared the body to disconnect. Okay? Everything that that I'm speaking about, of course, for instance, yoga is a really important thing about the routine. We are here to do this connection, but there are few asanas that are not good for each constitution. That's why I was saying that we need to first understand our body, our constitution, so then we can practice some yoga that is balanced with our constitution. Okay? Because there are, for instance, some asanas that are really good to increase fire, but if they increase fire, pitta, it's not really good for pitta, you know? Because if it has already too much fire, then it's increasing, then it will get irritated after. And usually Vata should not do a lot of, well, the word is missing now, you know, like upside down, inverted, you know, especially when it's standing on the cervical, because usually the Vata bones are not so strong, so it should not sustain the body there, you know. So in Ayurveda there's yoga therapy that studies which are the correct asanas for each constitution. And when for instance I create the program, of course I will be saying to the people which are the best asanas for the constitution of the person. Okay. Simple ones, you know, because of course there are a few that are good for everyone, you know, Savasana, yeah, it's good for everyone. Well, Kapha should not stay there too long because it's already slow, okay? But for a Vata, it's really important to do it a lot. And the thing is, even concerning jobs, Vata would like to, you know, have this job in which the person can move a lot, do many things, but it shouldn't. Vata should do a desk job, you know, to help him simply ground himself. Kapha types should be the one who go around and do the distribution and travel a lot, but usually they don't like it, you know, it's too much movement. I like to be steady. Kappas they need to be challenged. While Pitta they like to lead and they are usually good at it, but they need usually to learn how to be more calm. So of course meditation is important for all of them, with again differences. You know, each one needs a different kind of meditation to balance their constitution. That's why I do teach meditation, and one of the things that I usually say is that, well, the important thing for the person is to learn many different types of meditation and then to create their own. Because I have my daily meditation and I don't teach my daily meditation. I teach many different exercises and allow the person to choose which one vibrates, which one is the one that really helps the person to feel grounded, connected, and clear the mind. Because the mind, of course, is this lens through which we observe life, and every day it gets dusty, because the dust is information. Everything that we hear, see, talk about, even taste, its information gets in the mind, and it gets it, you know, dusty. So if you don't go there every day to just clear off a little bit, after a while, we want to know who we are, where we are heading, what's the purpose of life, and the lens is completely dirty. And then we will have kind of dirty thoughts, like, oh, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm doing here, I don't know, all of these things. So that's why it's so important to do meditation every day, even if it's a small one. I usually say, if you're not used to it, start with 1 minute only, and not more actually. Because if the body and the mind are not used to it, meditation is here to be a pleasure, not an obligation. It's more important to have a 1 minute quality meditation than 10 minutes and you're drifting. Okay? It's simply start learning how to be present. You can do the first exercises is usually about breathing, because breathing is a natural unconscious thing. So when we're doing it consciously, we are aware, we are here, we are present. And in Buddhism, they usually say that for us to attain illumination, we do need to develop our mindful, our mindfulness, to be present, to develop our full attention of being inside. Our names, they are our personal mantras. I usually say that if it's difficult for us to feel grounded, we should simply call for ourselves at least 3 times inside. I usually say, Michele, are you there? And it works because, like our parents when they were calling us, and especially when they are angry and they say usually our full name or something, it's that thing that brings us to our presence. Okay? If it's difficult to do any other kind of grounding exercise, simply calling out our name is the basic one. So, of course, when we come to Ayurveda has a lot of therapies, and I didn't spoke a lot about it. When we think about health, we have three things that are really important. One of them is, of course, food, the way we eat. The other one is the way we sleep. And the other one is unhealthy intimacy. It's concerning sexual life, sexual energy. And this is actually, again, also very different from each different constitution. Of course, I talked a little bit about the food, but of course, about the sleep. Usually Vata, they tend to have insomnia, and they do need to go to sleep early. They are the ones that need to sleep more, at least 8 hours. Because if the mind is always it needs to rest. But usually they are the ones who sleep less, because the mind is really active. And sometimes you can be a Pitta, but because you have a problem in life in the moment, then your Vata is really high. And I was talking a little bit about the seasons. Of course, summer is the Pitta season. Right? The heat is really high. But then autumn and winter, in general, they are the Vata seasons. So again, the same type of care that we should take with the Vata food and the Vata routine, it's also the same one that we should take in the Vata season. Eat warm food, moisturize, maintain warm in our body, because our Vata can increase, like I said, if you go outside and it's really chill. When you're so cold that you can't think, it's a Vata moment, okay? Or like again, if it's too windy, we feel our ideas completely turned aside, and again, we can't really think. So This is the Vata interfering with our energy. In the Kapha energy, it's really interesting because usually when I was talking about the springtime, one important thing was that usually we get a lot of mucus here. That's and a few people, they will feel it, like I said, drain out. But when we have a lot, when you feel, when you have a cold, again you feel that I can't think, because there's heaviness here. And the really amazing thing is that when you have heaviness here, actually you don't have so much light as in inspiration. So, have you ever heard about Jalaneti? Neti pot? That small pot, that small pot in which you prepare some warm water with a little bit of salt.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, to clean up the nostrils and in a way dissolve the mucus that is kind of crunched here, so we can think better. Actually, the salt is a flavor linked to Pitta. So, because it has a Pitta action, it creates movement inside, and actually it increases our intelligence. It's a very subtle way of doing it, And after that, usually in winter time, they would place a few sesame oil drops in the nostrils to nurture the sixth chakra, because it's soothing, it makes it feel more calm. It's like having a calm mind. All the therapies, most of the therapies, like the massage, and have you ever heard about the Shirodhara? It's an amazing therapy in which first the person usually has an abhyanga, a full body massage, and in the end, actually the Shirodhara is a tridoshic, it's for all the doshas treatment, but it's especially good for Vata and balance, like all the massages. So the person will be lying down, and there's a pot with warm oil that will go like this through the forehead for around 20 minutes, 40 minutes. And even if the person is out of balance, the person will start feeling, like getting calm, more, it's like an hypnotic state, okay?
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. You've tried it before.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. All the oiling is one of the really important things also in Ayurveda. Oiling the body. If you think about what oil is, if you think about olive oil, can you imagine how many olives were necessary to do 1 liter of olive oil? A lot of them. I would say it's a whole, it's a whole garden of them, of trees. They are contained in a bottle. So it means that oil, it has a large amount of energy, of power, of flourishing. So when we take a little bit of oil and we place it on our skin, we are absorbing prana directly. In Ayurveda, I find that massage is one of the most intelligent things that Ayurveda has, because sometimes we can't really properly digest food and even drugs that our physician can send us, because if the digestion is not functionally properly, it won't absorb. But when in Ayurveda they have many formulas of medicated oils, and they actually nurture and treat the person almost only directly using the oils through the body, because actually the skin is our bigger organ. So, and it doesn't need digestion. Well, the cells will absorb everything. The skin will absorb everything. Of course, that's why the oil in the massage usually needs to be warm, to open up space between the molecules and allow all the nutrients to go inside and nurture in deeper levels. Of course, all the oils have different temperatures, once again, and usually in a very general way, because of course there are so many oils that we can use, but to have kind of a structure, I usually, for Vata, I recommend sesame oil or mustard oil, because they are both really warm. For Kapha energy, mustard is also good. Some people do recommend almond oil to the Kapha because it's warm, and the Kapha does need to be warmed up. And for Pitta, it's the sunflower oil and the coconut oil because they are colder. That's why, for instance, you can go, in the summertime I almost only use coconut oil, even in the skin as sun protection, because it's not really high, but it has a 15 grades of sun protection, and it's really good also to put in our hair, so it can protect also from the sunlight. Okay, it cools down the head if you place a little bit of coconut oil in the head. Of course, it's the opposite with sesame oil. Okay, so that's why it's not at all recommended in summertime. So it's one really good thing that we should do it. We should also place the oil every day in the skin, actually, because it's a way of maintaining the articulations moving. Our articulations, they do need to be oiled. When they are cracking, making noise, it means they have no oil. Sometimes we do need to nurture it directly. I'm placing the knees because my knees tend to crack. And this is a Vata thing, Vata sign. When the knees or any other articulation simply cracks. So, concerning summer, finally, things that are important is that in Ayurveda there's one really important thing that is always recommended. That is that we should do a detox and a panchakarma in the beginning of each season. Because, of course, we should be eating only the things that are grown 30 kilometers around the place we live. Which means that many foods are left outside that area. For instance, I usually give this image: would you eat watermelon in Christmas? Okay, but people are eating mangoes at Christmas, and it's the same. Okay, because even bananas, I usually say that a lot to people that live in Portugal. Because we don't grow bananas, but people here, they love bananas. And banana is a very simple fruit. It's a very easy fruit. But it's a Pitta Kapha fruit. So it's really easy to fermentate inside the body. So it can be disturbing, okay? And it's good for tropical weather, but in a day like this you could eat one banana, but still it's not humid enough to a banana, So each food has a temperature that is right for us to eat. Even, I usually say coconut oil is a very intelligent plant in the oil itself, because it shows us when it's ready to be used. Because in wintertime it will be a block, And when it starts to melt, I should say, well, it's time to use it, because now we can use it. Before that, only if you have a specific skin disease. Skin diseases, they are linked usually to pitta, because the skin also digests slightly. So when there's a disturbance, acne and other atopic skin and things like that, it's linked to pitta. So it means there's some heat that increased in the body, or probably, skin diseases are linked to the liver, mainly, to the non-functioning liver, very well, and also, of course, the intestine. So, because the skin is purging what they can't clean up. So, usually we do need to clean out the liver, and, of course, treat the skin with some anti-pitta, in this case, oil. Okay, I would say also herbs. Actually, I did brought one really amazing herb for the skin that it's called neem. Neem, it's a really bitter. It's really bitter. This, if you're brave enough, you can open up and taste. But I would say it's bitter. But the thing is that in Ayurveda we have the 6 tastes, and the 6 tastes they also have all this connection with the 3 humors, with the 3 bioenergies. So we have sweet. Sweet is the same. It has the same constitution as the kapha energy. So it's water and earth. And most food is sweet. Most of the food is sweet. It doesn't mean pastry, It's like cereals are sweet. Or fruit is sweet. This is the real sweet. It, of course, is linked also with carbs in a way, okay? And that's because it's heavier. It's water and earth, okay? And of course, because it's the same constitution as kapha, kapha should avoid sweets, okay? It can eat very little. Usually the kapha can eat something. Well, honey, for instance, has a sweet taste, but it's sweet, but actually in general constitution, honey is a pitta food, because it was pre-digested by the bees, so it has enzymes, it's acidic. It has a sweet taste because of the pollen, but it has many other actions. So honey is good for kapha as a sweetener, but sweet things are usually very good for pitta and vata, okay? Especially for pitta. For instance, if you eat some really hot and spicy food, the best thing to place, if it's too hot, the best thing to place in the mouth is something sweet, because it cools down immediately, okay? Then you have salty. Salty food is water and fire. And because it's water and fire, of course, it will increase pitta, because it's the same constitution as pitta, but will increase also the kapha, because it has water, and mainly because probably you've heard that salty food creates water retention, The molecules will stick together and create, a retention. But vata usually, will love salty things, because actually it's very good for them. Because it's moisturized, it's water and heat. It's the opposite of what vata is, so it's something that balances vata. Then we have pungent, spicy things, hot things, which is fire and air. And I usually recall of the Speedy Gonzales character, when he eat a malagueta, something really spicy, and then the heat would go throughout the years. Spice food will, of course, increase pitta, and slightly vata because it has movement and air inside. But if it's in a small amount, and depending on the type of spice food we are eating, it's okay for vata because it warms the mind. Okay? For instance, cinnamon, it's spicy, but it's also sweet, so it's good for a vata. Okay? Cinnamon, even black pepper, it's kind of okay. Ginger is okay. But if you go to cayenne pepper, that it's really hot, it's not good for pitta, and for vata. But for kapha is amazing because it's light and hot. It's the opposite of kapha. It's the best thing for kapha. And it's the best thing for spring, and it's the best thing for weight loss. Okay? But we have to be careful about the weather. Because if it's too hot and we go to eat a spice thing, it creates a burn inside. You feel burning inside. Okay. Then we have bitter. Bitter is similar to vata, so it's heater and hair. So it's a very light flavor. It's what neem is really rich about. So bitter, it's the constitution of most green leaves, green vegetables. Because it's similar to vata, of course vata should not eat too much of this flavor. But it's really good for pitta because it cools him down, and it's good for kapha. Although it's cooling, it's also lighter, so kapha will also benefit from it. Then we have acidic, of course. And acidic, it's fire and earth. And it's really, of course, it increases pitta because it has fire. And also it increases kapha because it has earth. Again, for vata is really good because it's hot and at the same time it's grounding. So it's very common to hear vata people to say, "Oh, I love, salty and acidic food or fruit, for instance, because it balances them. It gives them grounding." And then we have astringent. Usually people don't really know what it is. It's something, the taste of aubergine. That taste that kind of sticks to the mouth. You feel some dryness in the tongue. Okay, it's grasping the tongue. And actually our skin does need to be astringent to protect the skin. So we kind of eat this food to help the skin to grow. And it's constituted with hair and heart. So it's really good mainly for pitta and kapha, but not so good for vata. Okay? So this is important when we are thinking about the summertime food. The summertime will be, the best flavors will be all the ones that don't have fire. So mainly astringent, bitter and sweet. That's why in summertime we can eat ice cream. It's okay to eat ice cream once in a while. And it's okay to eat salads, bitter. Things that are lighter, that cool down the body. Okay? And in summertime it's really important also for us to take a small nap. Because days are longer and people tend to sleep less during the night. So they may have to compensate during the afternoon. In Ayurveda, sleeping during the day is almost forbidden. But in summertime, if it's too hot, it's okay to regain the energy that was lost. Okay? In the beginning, I was saying, in the beginning of the season, we should do, well, if it was perfect, we should do Panchakarma. Have you probably heard about it?
3 times.
Oh, that's amazing. Panchakarma, it's a really deep cleanse of the body. And Panchakarma means 5 deep actions of cleaning. And it includes vomiting, it includes draining blood also. That's why it's so very strong. And of course purging. And cleaning the hydrocolon, cleaning the colon also. So why? Because during all the year we eat a really high amount of variable food, you know. So can you imagine a bag full of toxins of all the things that we eat during even only 3 months? And if we start to place really good food on top, well, the good food will get to the body one day, but if we clean up the toxins, of course it will be easier. So in Ayurveda, what they propose for us to maintain our youth and our balance and our health is for every, in the beginning of each season, we do some deep cleaning. Of course, we don't need to do it the same way every season. Each season is linked to a different cleaning. So usually summer is linked to purging. It means taking some herbs to liberate the stomach of all the toxins and the beginning of the intestine and also the liver of all the toxins that are retained there, because the liver is one of the organs that will suffer more with summer. You know, like for instance, in a very hot day, you can feel even your eyes burning, you know, and get red around, because if the liver is kind of full of toxins, then one of the exterior organs of the liver are the eyes. So that's why we wear sunglasses and things like that, so we can protect this energy. The skin on the face, it's kind of more cold, but the eyes, they are really pitta. They are really they are warmer. And they can't stand, you know, when you're cleaning up, washing your face, if you wash it with hot water, the eyes usually don't like it. And actually, it makes you lose sight to wash the eyes with hot water, okay? The face always should be cleaned with really cold water. It maintains the firmness, but it's especially good for the eyes, okay? And in summertime, of course, this is the important thing, because we usually sweat more, we need to take a shower, and in India they say we are crazy because we take too much hot showers. And the hot showers make the skin lose, because the skin is also pitta in general, so the skin needs to be cool down in a way. And actually when the skin is cooled down, we get warmer inside, because the body will react, you know, balancing the energy. So there's even one technique in which we should cool down, especially this area, with cold water if it's too hot outside. And usually the body will react, if it's cold outside, if you place some cold water here, after you feel first the chills, but after the body will get really warm, because it's reacting and balancing with the outside temperature. Of course, concerning food, I've already said the taste, but it's really the time of we need to drink more. Watermelon, I usually recommend watermelon detox. You know, like 2 or 3 days eating watermelon. When the days are really hot, if you like it. Otherwise, you can choose another fruit that is similar, you know, melons or whatever. So, because
just eating.
yeah, just eating. It's a way of detoxing, you know, because the digestive system needs a break. It needs a break, you know. It's working all the time, and it's doing recognition of food all the time. Actually, what does recognition is the tongue. So the tongue is a really amazing computer, because it's the tongue that recognizes taste, and each taste is linked with different emotion. For instance, sweet is related to contentment. That's why when we feel down, we go and eat something sweet. And also it's a grounding flavor, you know, like, oh, my head is spinning, I eat something sweet, I feel that I'm more grounded. And, but actually for grounding, depending on the person, if it's a vata, salty thing and acidic thing also works. For a pitta, it's the sweet thing. For a vata, it doesn't usually need so much grounding because it's grounded already. But still, I did know a few kappas that were kind of ungrounded, and they needed to take a few things to come down. Of course, the humor that benefits the most of summer is the kappa. Kappa type, you know, because it's hot and dry. It's the opposite of kappa. So kappa will feel amazing. Pittas usually, you know, when I'm doing consultation, they would say, oh, I don't like summer. You know, and you think, yeah, it's strange, but yes, they don't like summer, and it's natural. For me, I'm pitta mainly, and of course I have the other two, and I have a little bit of kappa unbalance. But I can't stand too much time in the sun, for instance, and too much light and things like that. And I have the gray hair. That's a really pitta thing, you know. Pitta, they do have a few questions about summertime. They need to always wear a hat, especially one with large, whatever, I don't recall the name. And they need to protect themselves from being outside, otherwise they will get really irritated. And you know, like they get irritated if they don't heat, they can be really irritated if they catch too much sun. Vata types, they will be like sardines in the sun. They love the sun. They love to be there, absorbing prana and getting warm and feeling almost, you know, frying, but they are okay. All the vatas I know, they like to do that. For me, I'm, you know, standing below the sun parasol, and they are there outside, you know, catching the sun. So it's different. And kappas, also, they like it a lot. They like the sun, of course, a lot. And they need it because it makes them feel lighter. So, a few things that I also brought here. I work a lot with essential oils. And the ones, of course, all that are relaxing and cooling are really good for summer. And I just brought the most basic one, that is lavender, of course. And this is the thing that I always bring in my purse, because lavender is really good to it's the one that you can really place in the skin without harming the skin. The other ones can be too strong for the skin. And it cools down vata. It slows down vata. So every time the person is getting too, the vata is spinning too much, just a sniff of lavender is really good, and it's also cooling because it also cools down pitta. So that's why I brought
What's
one.
interesting about all that we're talking about is also how it can be related to, for example, our women's side or menopause side. Because in the menopause side, the hormones are all going crazy, and we get, heat spills, so that's why it's great.
Yes.
Lavender
For-
oil to,
Yes,
or
and
shatavari.
for menopause,
Shatavari.
shatavari, it's amazing. Actually, I take it all the
Yeah.
time. Like at least 8 months a year, I'm taking shatavari. I'm taking and doing a pause because it's important to pause.
Oh, yeah.
But shatavari, it's sparge.
And asparagus.
Asparagus, yes.
Indian asparagus.
Yes, and actually they are very good for women in general. They are also good for men, but they are especially good for the feminine reproductive
Yeah.
system to balancing. But they are cooling, so they are especially good for pitta and for summertime.
How would you
Yeah.
have that?
Well, usually in powder. I prefer to take the herbs in powder because the tongue is the one that decodes the herb, that really knows the principle of the herb.
But then you have to mix it with something.
Yes, I usually mix it with warm water only and
Okay.
take it,
Okay.
just that. And usually I take, the smaller spoon, it's called teaspoon, a teaspoon with warm water and take it, This is
Just
really
sorry, 1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon in water, warm water. This is really important to take it with, you can take it in the morning. It's really good for spring when it's coming, when it's getting hotter, and until the summertime is over, okay? Then in winter time you can take it, but you should mix it with probably some ginger or something to balance because it's a cooling, and in winter time yeah, we need to balance, okay? And I also brought brahmi. Brahmi is one amazing herb for also to balance the pitta, and it's an amazing herb for also balancing pitta, but also the vata. It allows our blood to flow better in the body, and its properties really allow us to really get smarter in a way.
For the brain.
It's good for the brain. It's good for it brings oxygen to the really small capillaries inside our brain. And it's really good for cellulitis also, because of the same properties, okay? Because it allows the circulation to really flow properly. It has a bitter, not so bitter as neem. Neem is really good for skin problems, and well, in India they brush the teeth with neem because it's antibacterial and antifungic and anti-many things. That's why it kills all the germs in the skin also. You can, add neem to an oil and spread it on the skin when you have rashes and, well, skin diseases in general. But of course I would recommend always to go for a Ayurvedic physician for that, not to do it just because.
How would you take this one?
All the same way.
All the same way.
All the same way.
Mixing it with water and
Yeah, and taking. I didn't brought triphala actually, but it's one of the best also herbs to do a detox. And well, it's to take it in the same way. I would recommend the triphala to be taken in the night.
Brahmi?
No, Brahmi, it's good. Well, Brahmi is good in the day to maintain awareness and in the night to help us sleep.
So
Okay?
2 times a day.
Yes, for
Okay,
instance.
so Shatavari is good for the night then, no?
Shatavari you can take it in the morning actually.
I took it at night.
You like-
Very processes better than doing the sleep.
But it depends. If you're doing Triphala, for instance.
I'm actually taking tablets.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, well, I actually only brought Rumalaya because it's also cooling. This you can buy very easily in the.
Oh yes, yeah.
This is amazing for. This is cooling, and it's amazing for muscular pain. And sometimes actually I also bring it a lot in my bag because you can smell it. It has a very cooling smell and make us feel very suited, you know. So and it's good in general for everything you might need in the summertime. I brought you, I have many books, but I always carry this for when I'm giving presentations, because I do love Maya Tiwari work, okay? This is a very, well, it's useful as a daily tool, as a prepare, you can pass it on. See. There's a brand, this is a French brand, this essential oil, and actually they have the most large collection of essential oils I've ever seen. So if you want to take a peek on the site, it's there. Because you can find it, many of them. And actually, they usually have biological. You can choose bio or not. And they have follow. So, any questions after all of this?
I'm gonna have to go.
Yes,
Sorry.
we are on time actually.
Thank you very, very much. So that was really good. And sorry, I have to rush.
Yeah, it's okay.
I've actually taken a lot of Ayurveda classes, and I must tell you, you did a fantastic job to introduce it to everybody. You covered everything. You were very thorough and very complete with your explanations. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you really did.